Shalom, my dear brethren in Yahshua Messiah. I'm Kirui Andrew from Kenya, East Africa. Allow me to cross-examine Brother and Professor Ariel Solbach on his view on Acts chapter 10.
But if you're talking with a Torah-observant Christian about the subject of Acts 10 and Peter's vision, they will invariably claim that the vision was only about Gentiles and had nothing to do with food. There are three problems with that.
We view Acts chapter 10 as only talking about Gentiles being grafted in. But Professor is also saying that it also means unclean animals were now being grafted in the menu of food.
First, the vision was literally about food. God told Peter to eat the animals.
When you read that Acts chapter 10 verses 11, this is what it says, "And behold, the heavens opened, and a certain vessel descending, as it were a great seed, laid down by four corners upon the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts and creeping things of the earth and birds of the heaven." In other words, these are unclean animals. "And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, and kill." That's what Professor now is saying. Peter was told to kill the animals. Now, one thing now which Professor need to explain is, if Peter accepted that these animals were now food and then he wanted now to kill them, would it have been possible? Because this was actually a vision, so it was not possible. But when you proceed, you will realize that Peter even questioned himself. But Peter said, "Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common and unclean." So Peter actually rejected Jehovah. And a voice came unto him again the second time, "What God had cleansed, make not to common." This is the very strong verse for Professor. That Professor that these are the clean animals now had been cleansed. Therefore, Peter was being instructed and not to say they are still common. And this was done thrice, and straight away the vessel was received unto heaven. In verse 17, Professor should counter check verse 17. "Now, while Peter was much perplexed in himself what the vision which he had seen might mean, behold, the man that was sent by Cornelius, having made inquiry for Simon's house, stood before the gate." So here, Peter was shown a vision of unclean animals. Then what happened? Real men came to him and called and asked whether Simon, who was surnamed Peter, were lodging there. And while Peter thought on the vision, so Peter thought on the vision, he did not take it literally like the way Professor is taking it. "And while Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, Behold, 3 men seek thee." So you can see here, Peter thought on the vision. He did not take it literally the way Professor would want us to believe. And as Peter was thinking about it, what happened? The Holy Spirit said unto him, "Behold, 3 men seek thee." And these are real people. If you read chapter 11, verse 12, it repeats the same thing. It says, "And the Spirit bade me go with them, making no distinction." So no distinction. "And these 6 brethren also accompanied me, and we entered into the man's house." So you can see here, the Holy Spirit is telling Peter that these are human beings. Make no distinction of what? Of animals? Unclean animal, no, between Gentiles and the Jews. That is how Peter understood the vision. So when you continue in verses 28, when Peter now went with these people to Cornelius' house, this is what happened. "And he said unto them, Ye yourselves know how it is unlawful for a man that is a Jew to join himself or come into one of another nation. And yet unto me, God had shown me that I should not call any man common or unclean. So what is it? Peter understood it with the direction of the Holy Spirit, not to call any man common or unclean. Peter never mentioned the issue of animals the way Professor wants us to feel it. Because if there was an opportunity now, Peter should have now told us that God showed that I should not call any man common or unclean, and then also unclean animals, they are also clean. But that is not how Peter understood it. That was not the first time Yahweh was using unclean animals to teach concerning the Gentile nations. In Daniel chapter 7, we hear of the same in verses 2. What happened is that Daniel saw a vision by night, and behold, 4 winds of heavens break forth upon the great sea. That's what Prophet Daniel saw. Does Professor want to say it was about wind? Of course not. In verse 3, what does it say? Great beasts came upon the sea, and they were diverse one from another. Now in verses 15, as for me, Daniel, my spirit, you see, it's all the same thing with Peter. My spirit was grieved in the midst of my body, and the vision of my head troubled me. So Prophet Daniel also questioned himself, what does this vision mean? He did not take it literally. Interpretation. And I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth concerning all of this. Ask him the truth concerning all of this. So Prophet Daniel understood that these animals do not mean animals. Even the wind does not mean wind. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. So visions actually do not stand on the vision literally, but there is an interpretation. Now in the verse 17, that is where he is being now told these 4 beasts mean 4 Gentile kingdoms. And that was it. Daniel did not now stick saying these are animals, which I think professors should also understand it in that context. Concerning this unclean animal which was shown to Apostle Simeon Peter, professors should understand the vision the way Simon Peter understood it. Professors should not understand it better than a disciple Simon Peter. The Holy Spirit directed Peter that these unclean animals mean Gentiles. In verses 28, the Holy Spirit directed Peter not to call any man unclean. But there is nowhere where he was being now told the interpretation mean you should not say unclean animals are now clean. Now then, Professor continues to say,
on what basis are we willing to allow for a change on the issue of people, but not food? That's completely arbitrary.
Now, I think on that aspect, maybe as Gentiles we can say we are allowing a change in people. Then it also means we are allowing a change on food. But in the first place, unclean animals are not food to the Jews. Maybe to an American like Professor, pigs and shellfish are food. The way Professor is viewing that if there was a change of people, then there should also be a change of animals. Unclean animals are now clean. But Professor, would you try to put yourself in the shoes of disciple Simon Peter? He could not view it like that. I think even me, as a Kenyan, a Kalenjin, if you tell me that a snake is food, I will not accept that. Professor, it is better you put yourself in the shoes of disciple Simon Peter. Don't look at this verse as an American.
Third, if the vision of the food was solely intended as a metaphor for the Gentiles, well then Jesus was using a false metaphor. He was essentially saying, look, I know in this vision I'm telling you that all food is now clean, but it's not really true. It's just an example I'm using to show you that you can hang out with Gentiles now.
Now, look at this, Professor. Several metaphors may not fit exactly the way we want. The Israelites were told on the Passover night they were supposed to slaughter a lamb. They were slaughtering early until the coming of Yeshua Messiah. When Yeshua came, he was not slaughtered. He was not eaten the way that lamb was to be eaten. So you cannot now start questioning that this text did not exactly fit into this. Just take it the way it is written and the way those who were given that vision understood it. Otherwise, you will cause a lot of complication with the gospel.
No, that is not how God works.
Who told you that, Professor? That is how Yahweh works. He shows his people, the disciples, something, and then he gives them interpretation. And that is the end. We don't have now to come up with our own interpretation.
Actually, the problem is far deeper than that.
The problem is not far deeper than that. It is exactly the way it is written in Acts chapter 10. Thank you.